This is Swarfcast. I'm Noah Graff. Malachi Greb, founder of Elite Automation. Welcome to the podcast. I am so honored to have you.
Thank you. I'm honored to be on your show. Really appreciate it.
So Malachi, first, just to give some people some context, tell us about your company.
Sure. So the company is Elite Automation. Our core business model is capital projects, so automated capital projects in the manufacturing space. So we're designing automated systems, a lot of custom automated systems that are to take a manual process and turn it into an automated process. And we do all different types of applications, anything from simple palletizing to more complex assembly to even robotic welding. But that's also another thing about our business is we do a lot with robotics and motion controls. So we're always like moving things around. There's always some motion in the type of systems that we build. And there's always generally some level of technology that's there, right? Like I said, there's servo motion, there's like line tracking, vision systems, robotics, and a lot of coordinated motion between these things. And that's kind of the core of what we do. We have a material handling side of our business, and then we also have a robotic welding side of our business as well.
The robotic welding side is you setting up the cells or actually providing explain that?
Yeah, sure. Yeah. So for the robotic cells that we do, right, that'd be considered like the capital project part of it, where it consists of the robot turn-in that turns the fixturing. And then within that, there is weld fixturing, and then there's the integration. So we both provide the capital project as well as the weld fixturing. We're doing extremely well on the weld fixturing side of things because it's less of a competitive market in the sense of, you know, some of the big players that are doing some weld fixturing like Lincoln Electric, they have an automation division, and, you know, they're doing the capital system and they're also doing the weld fixturing. However, like when it comes to like the weld fixturing, they can't be as competitive because there's still a lot of labor in the design and the manufacturing of those weld fixturings. Whereas the capital side, at least for robotic welding, is very much a procurement, right? Like you buy robots, you buy your turn-ins. Most of the things are not a custom thing. Now, sometimes we'll do like custom turn-ins and stuff as well. But
what is a turn-in?
Turn-in is what rotates the fixture, right? It changes the position of the fixture. So like maybe the robot can weld on the top side, and then it rotates around to the bottom side and it performs some more welds on the bottom.
Okay.
It just gives you the ability to reach more pieces of the part you're welding from more places. Interesting.
So now I want to know, how did you get to be where you are? Give me the 5-minute life story.
Yeah, sure. So, I kind of started off young, not really having
How old are you now?
31.
31. Okay.
Yep. Yeah. So I'm still pretty young, at least for this industry and where I'm at. But I started off life a little bit rough, not much direction, kind of hanging out with the wrong people. And, I dropped out of high school, ended up getting my GED very quickly. So, I wasn't going to graduate high school until I was like 19 years old. And then I, made a commitment to myself. Okay, I'm 16. I'll drop out now. And as long as I can get my GED by the time I'm 17, I accomplished that. I did get my GED by the time I was 17. And, from there, I was eager and ready to start college.
Why did you decide to drop out of high school if you knew you were going to go get a GED?
Because I wasn't going to graduate until I was 19.
So that's why.
I was already behind. I wouldn't say behind. Like that was when I wasn't held back or anything. I was just, that's just how my birthday fell, where I was just going to graduate at the age of 19.
Yeah. Because they say, a lot of people that nowadays the parents like their kids to to have birthdays like that, so their brains
Yeah.
are more developed. But you were bored, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't want to wait till like 19 years old to like when you can start going to college at 18. I mean, and also I wasn't super like it wasn't like I was just trying to be successful in life, and that's why I was looking to drop out of school. I was already skipping school and not really wanting to be there anyway. And you know,
So you got your GED, and
yep,
then you went to school.
yep. So I got my GED, and then I had to wait. I even looked to see if like, hey, can I go ahead and start college now? But there was pretty much no programs that allowed you to start college before the age of 18. So I had to wait till I turned 18, and
Okay.
and then from there, I started out going to college for an electrical lineman, and then realized shortly into the program within the first semester that you needed a CDL to really get hired in that
What is a
sector.
CDL?
So like basically a semi driver's license,
Oh,
right? Because they expect you to drive that big rig truck, and that was like the kind of the consensus. Like you really need to get a CDL if you want to get a position at one of these companies because they need you to be able to drive the truck. Well, at this point in time, I also had a suspended license, and it was going to be suspended for like 2 years.
I was going to say, what's the problem? You need you have a driver's license.
Yeah. So you have to go to the CDL, you have to go through schooling and everything like that to get a CDL as well. So that's like a whole nother side of schooling that you'd have to do just to be able to do that. But the main factor was I had a suspended license, and it was suspended for like multiple years. So I was like, well, I'm going to get this degree, and like, I'm not going to be able to do anything with it. So, or at least I'm going to have to wait another year or two till I can.
All right. So then you pivoted?
Yeah. So then I pivoted, right? That's when I kind of shifted, and I was actually going to a community college at that time. And when I pivoted just to another program in that same college. So, I basically went into the office with the advisors and said, hey, like I'm looking for a different program. I need something. Right. And it, listed off all the different programs that they had. And whenever they got to robotics, I was like, what's that? And they
sounds cool. I mean,
yeah, sounds cool. Right. And they read it off and I was like, that's it. I had, I didn't even move on to the next one. I was like, that's it. So I was pretty committed as soon as they brought that one up and described what it was.
And it sounds like since then the robots have just spoken to you. It's just fascinating you.
Yeah, I got, maybe this is a serendipity thing, but
it sounds a hell of a lot like serendipity. The one thing didn't work, and then found something that really did speak to you.
Yeah, and then also the within my first semester of that new program, one of my professors in my PLC course, she was like, I expressed to her that like, hey, I want to. I kind of wanted to travel. I didn't have any kids at this time. Hey, I want to travel and like I kind of wanted to get out of where the town I lived in too, just to like not be here. And
where do you live? Or where did you live?
Evansville, Indiana.
Okay.
And it was mainly just kind of get away from like the people that I grew up with and just make some space there, and, she had advised. So because like I told her like kind of like some of the things I was looking for in an employer, she's like, well, actually, I went to college with this guy, right?
Serendipity. Dots.
Yeah. and he owns this automation company here in Evansville, and I think they're maybe looking for some people. So I went over there, I interviewed, I got the job, and
so you said, I guess I'll leave Evansville later.
Yep. Oh, well, so part of the thing with that in Evansville is being a systems integrator. You travel for work. That's where they got connected there. Yep. You travel to do like installs and stuff like that. So you're spending like a month or two out of town.
I see.
Yep. So landed.
So you became an integrator.
Yep. So and like my specific job. So I work for an integrator. We are technically an integrator or a OEM system builder. My technical. I started off at the very beginning, kind of just being a grunt and. Just doing some mechanical install stuff, some electrical wiring stuff. And actually this kind of aligns with you quite a bit, but I did a lot of the robot refurb too. So we had like a side of the company where we bought old robots and we refurbished them, put new motors and stuff on them, and got them back up to good running condition.
How old were the robots?
Anywhere from, some of the oldest were probably 25 years old.
Really? 25-year-old robots people still want?
Yeah. Well, the biggest thing is this is actually a funny thing that I learned from that business, but the 25-year-old robots, they generally sit in the basement forever. And then at some point they say, oh, we're going to sell them for scrap.
Mm-hmm.
And then somebody comes in and says, okay, I'll buy them. Right. Then they buy them and they, maybe they have to do some refurb. Maybe they don't. But the funny thing is that same company will call 6 months later and saying, hey, on line 1, I have a 1927 R2000 robot down. Right. I'm just being, but, and do you guys still have one? We had one down in our basement. Right. So they buy back the same robot that they sold for pennies to replace another robot that was at the end of the line that went down.
I definitely understand that world. So you were an integrator, and tell me a few of the kind of things that you'd integrate.
Yeah, so that company also did quite a bit of robotics. They did a lot with vision, a lot of automotive glass. So we were doing like the palletization, depalletization of glass. We were doing some like value add type of applications where we're putting like camera brackets onto the windshield, or putting them through like a nipper system where it basically, it's the process where you take two sheets of glass with a laminate in between them and make them shatterproof. So that the nipper process is what that's called, where it basically runs them through a machine where it presses them together. So we did some projects like that. So yeah, also a lot of like robotics and vision. Vision was the really big one because.
So explain vision.
Yeah. So vision is essentially a tool, a camera that gives essentially a robot or piece of automated equipment. It gives it eyes, right? It gives it the ability to see what it's working with, right? And going back to like an example of like working with this glass, the glass would come down a conveyor, right? It's traveling down a 200-foot length of conveyor. Okay, it gets to the robot cell, and it's shifted around as it traveled through that 200 feet of conveyor, right? But the robot needs to be able to pick it up very, very precisely to within like a millimeter and place it into this next operation. Well, what we do then is we'll take an image of that object, in this case glass, and identify its orientation, its X, Y, Z, and then be able to pick up in the exact same spot every single time to be able to place it into the next operation perfectly.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah. So vision is a
that's it's my understanding based on another podcast interview I did. This is like the big future, right? Vision, just keep getting better and better for robots to not bump into things. And
yeah. I mean, it's definitely has already made a pretty significant impact in the industry. To go back to my story a little bit, the company that I came from, the one thing that was really, really unique about that company is 10 years ago, they had a better.
What was the name of the company?
Midwest Motion. It was a fairly small company, but they had a better vision system than Cognex and Keyence, which are the leaders in the industry right now. 10 years ago, they had a better vision system than they did, capability-wise. However, where Cognex and Keyence shined was two major things. User interface was better, and marketing. They just marketed better, right? Nobody knew about this proprietary vision system that Midwest Motion had, but everybody knew who Keyence and Cognex was, right?
And that's why those companies were big and making money.
Yep. So, over time, Keyence and Cognex have caught up with the capabilities of that system and can pretty much handle everything that it can. but yeah, that's one thing that gave that company an edge. It was something that was really cool that we got to work with, and I got a lot of exposure to, and also a lot of exposure to, since it was like a custom built type of vision system. I got to see like a lot of the back end and see a lot of how like those vision tools worked, and even got to understand. I could read like the structured text programming that it was written in, and kind of at least have an understanding of like how the logic was scanning and all the different processes that were happening. And so that gave me like a really good fundamental knowledge of like how vision works in the background, and and also working with lighting and stuff like that. But
so you were there, and then what was the next stop?
Yeah, so I mean, honestly, I spent pretty much my entire career at that company before starting Elite.
And then so one day you're just like, I'm ready. It's time.
Yeah, well, one day actually happened 2 years before that one day. But,
explain.
So 2 years prior to that, I had some other engagements. I had another YouTube channel that I was doing in the fitness sector. I decided to drop that, just cut it off right then and there, and said, I'm going to devote all my time into manufacturing. I'm going to devote all my time towards this business here and trying to help them grow their company as much as I could. And I said, I'm going to give it a year and I'll see where we're at. Right. And so we got to the end of that 1 year, and I kind of didn't feel like they had taken a lot of the initiatives that I had put in place and, listened to those type of things. But I could still just tell, right? They didn't have like the leadership that was needed to grow. The company was in business for like 20 something years at this point, and it's still been a fairly small company.
And they didn't want to grow, or they were just incompetent, or
it was like one of those things where you say, I want to grow, but you really are not doing nothing to try to grow.
Okay.
Right. You don't like have active salespeople. You don't have marketing. You don't have like the things in place to initiate growing. You work a 40-hour work week whenever, it takes 80-hour work weeks to grow a business. At least until you really, really get it off the ground, So that was a big part of it, right? The opportunity was never going to be there. I kind of had in my mind at some point that I wanted to be like an executive in a company. And I also I had a nature of, I don't do very well in like the corporate setting as far as like climbing a ladder, right? Like I always pick up things. I always pick up things and do the things that other people don't want to do. I learned electrical engineering. I learned how to do risk assessments of safety systems. I learned how to do all these things, and I picked up all these extra slacks. But I'm also the guy that would probably get passed up by some other guy that did less. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So
right. So you it sounds like that's why you are an entrepreneur.
Yep, sounds like it.
Okay, so then you said, all right, I'm going to do this myself. Yep. And what the heck does one do when you say, I want to start my own robot integrator? Right. Is that what the first thing you were going to offer was integration?
Yep. Yeah, I wanted to do exactly what I was doing. The next thing to that was I took one more year. Whenever I came to that definitive decision that this company won't ever get to the point that I need it to get to, then I made the definitive decision that, okay, I'm going to start my own company. I'm going to do it a year from now.
And what was the idea? What would you do in that year?
In that year, it gave me a little bit more time to become a little bit more financially sound. I had some investments. I was investing in like Tesla and stuff back then. This is like the 2000, like around COVID, right before COVID time.
Sure.
So I made some good money with some Tesla and stuff like that, and I'm really good at saving too. So like I could dump like any extra dollar that I had into the stock market and stuff. But that wasn't really it. What it was just take 1 year to like just get my mind about me, right? Like to observe the company even more, see where there's gaps, see where I want to do things differently, and like, hone in on my skills, just get a little bit more experience. And then also, roughly 6 years before I finally pulled the trigger fully, I went ahead and legalized the company, started building a website, started a LinkedIn, started, building out some of the back end social stuff. prior to leaving. And then
So you were ready for when you wanted to do it with yourself, with your own.
Yeah. I was getting prepared, started sending out a little bit of like LinkedIn outreach messaging. Hey, I'm, thinking about, starting my own company, And,
okay. So you start, where do you start when you're starting your own company? Were you a one-man band at the beginning, or did you have a co-founder, or what?
yeah. So, yes and no. So actually I did start the company. I had the plan at this 1 year mark. I had the plan. I'm going to start the company. It's going to happen. And then roughly around that 6 month mark that I was talking about, I had a coworker who worked under me as a junior, and the guy was really sharp. I mean, for being a junior that just came out of college, like we had a lot of alignment in his like thought process and just his ability to pick up on things. Like we just jived really well with, and so we were also executing.
That's the best if you have a partner to push each other. And okay, so you went into business together.
Yep, until 2 weeks till it was time to pull the trigger, and he sends me a one paragraph text message saying, "I don't know if this is for me. I don't know, I think I might want to do other things in life." And I'm like, huh, okay. Like probably close to one of the most devastating messages that I've ever received in my life, to be honest. That was
and now you would say it was serendipity.
Now it's just serendipity,
yeah. Because you got to do it in your own way.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, there may have been complications, with having a partnership and all that,
but I mean, so, in my life, whenever I've had various projects and things, I've often felt like a one-man band, and that I felt like it ended up holding me back. In the end, it's really, I find it remarkable that you'd be able to have such a successful company and not have somebody else to like pull you up when you're down. Did you have anybody like that, or you pretty much just like push through on your own?
I'm really good at enduring pain. I didn't really think about it, but a lot. I kind of went through like quite a bit of like emotional abuse, like when I was younger. My mom talked really bad to me, and so I think from a young age it made me like really strong to like things like coming at me, right? Like if this didn't go well, I mean, don't get me wrong, like that's still like one of my biggest focuses as far as like enduring things that are coming in the door, because now new things that are coming in the door that I have no control over, in the sense of, like let's say for instance we're in a financial situation. I can't put money into the company that will be anywhere near what the company would need to survive, right? Mm-hmm. It's way past like what a single human can do, right? So like when it's just me, all I have to do is worry about my own livelihood, and I can make that work. If I got to do, like in the very beginning, I did like DoorDash and Uber and stuff like that, right? I'd go out and I would drive in the evenings. I'd get myself out from behind the computer, and I'd go make a little extra money. That way I wasn't eating too much into my reserves that I had put back for doing this company. And even still then, it gave me the time that I could, get on LinkedIn and hack on my phone and communicate with people and network like that, and into the downtime times in between. But yeah, going back into it, like I think I just really gained the ability to endure a lot. Also in this like exact same period of time, the mother of my 3 children left, which was like literally like 1 week before.
So how old were you when you first had a child?
21, I think.
21.
Yep.
Wow. So you're out there starting this business, and you already have, how many kids did you have when you were starting the business?
3. Well, hold on. 4.
How many kids do you have now?
6.
Wow. Man, I have a 1.5-year-old, and I'm like, How do people have more than one? I could
Right.
guess I could see more than one more, but so your wife left at that time. Did the kids, did you have the kids or did she take the kids?
Yeah, so that ended up being a whole thing. So like,
Sorry if this is not,
yeah, no,
if you don't want to talk about this. Or,
no, I mean this is a good thing because I mean I feel like somebody else will go through like some similar situation. I mean, so many people go through like divorce and stuff like that, so it's good for people to get these insights. But yeah, so she tried to do like a whole thing where she like tried to take the kids from me. She tried to say like I was abusing her and blah blah blah. But like the whole thing is she left with some other guy was the whole thing. But she was trying to like skew it to really just try to like be able to like she wanted to just go with this other guy and act like I didn't exist, right? Well, that was her whole strategy. And so through that I immediately had to get an attorney. I was fighting that custody thing. And
wow.
I think it took me a few months. I started getting them back pretty immediately for like I got them like every weekend, but I wasn't used to be. I had the kids every single day of my life since they were born. You know what I mean? So it was definitely that was like the hardest part of all of it. And so I fairly quickly got them back on the weekends. And but yeah, one of the caveats to that was I told her I'd pay her $10,000. I said, I tell you what, I said, she also left the state too and moved to another state. So I said, I'll pay you $10,000 to move back to the state is what it was. Right.
May I ask, did she was your wife or just your?
Technically we're just together. We were together like 7 years though. Did
she change from when you first met her? Is that what happened?
Yes and no. Definitely I would say a lot of it was I changed. Whenever we got together, I was still young. I was like 20 something years old. This is the beginning of.
Yeah, when you're 21, you're a kid. You're totally different now.
Yeah. And so I would almost say there was more of me that changed in the sense of like I became ambitious. There was something I was after something. I went to college and then she kind of just didn't really want to do anything. Right. She was like, she worked a lot of hours and but like that was it. Like she would just work. Right. So there was some segregation where we split because of we had different aspirations in life. And
right.
I would say that's probably where the major conflict came. And then I think that I think there's a plausibility maybe she was cheating throughout the time period we were together too. Like after we broke up at this period of time, there's like somebody else that called me and said, "Hey, I just wanted to let you know that she was actually cheating on you with my brother too," or something. So it's like, okay,
I'm sorry. Put the salt in your wounds.
Yeah.
Okay, so you started this company, and then I'm just me, and I'm sure tons of people listening to this are just like, all right, you want to start a company, okay? You were a one-man band at one point. How did you get to the point where you? And I know it's a lot of steps, and it's probably have to be a double podcast to go through all the different things you went through. But I don't know, give me like if you had to divide up your journey into a couple parts from then until now, which I guess would be what 8 years or 9 years, 10 years.
Yeah. I mean the total length of it. Yeah. So, definitely something that was a big milestone. A couple of milestones I'll go through real quickly. One, earlier on in my career, I started watching a lot of like fitness YouTube stuff. Right. Okay. I didn't have the time to work out, so I educated myself on fitness so that when I did have the time to work out, I knew exactly what I was doing when I got into the gym. So I did that. Then I started working out when I finally got the time. Then I was looking at passive income streams and blah, blah, blah. And so that led me to start a YouTube fitness channel. I then did that for some years, which led me to.
And that was when you had your own company, or that was before? That was when you were working.
This is like from the beginning. Yep. When I very first, I'm just giving you like a quick, like boom, boom, boom.
That was when you were still working for the integrator.
Yep. At the very beginning of my career. Yep.
Yeah.
And then so that led me into marketing, because I was like, how to grow a YouTube channel. Right. And so those questions arose on like how to, and then that like is social media marketing. That's where a lot of my social media marketing, skills had kind of came from. And then, then when I chopped that off, and then I started, went 101% into manufacturing, gave that company 1 year, spent one more year just honing in on my skills and just getting better at my craft. Finally made the leap. Oh, but into that stage there too, I also changed like the contents and stuff that I was listening to being more business strategy. I even went to like some like business seminars and stuff like that, which was also one of the milestones that made me realize that I have something different to start a company.
What was the business seminar you went to?
It's Patrick Bet-David's The Vault. So Patrick Bet-David, he has a YouTube channel, and it's called the Valuetainment's the name of his channel.
Okay.
So really, really good channel. It's one of my favorite channels to like listen to business stuff, and the content's changed a lot now, but it used to be very like business strategy based, and like it was very like tactical business, like, so I like that about it. And so that and listening to Gary Vaynerchuk's, and I had like some other guys too that I was like listening to, and some of the fitness people that they were fitness influencers, so they started their own businesses and stuff like that. So I got to kind of see like a little bit of some of that life transition for them, learn about business. Then we got to the point where, I finally made the leap myself. I was pretty adamant about not doing time and material work. I wanted to, cause I wanted to get out of that 9 to 5 mindset. I wanted to, I wanted to be a business, right? I didn't want to be an employee. So through that, I was like, okay, I'm not going to, accept time and material work, at least at first, at least until I feel like I got past this feeling of I am a business and I'm not just an employee. And so I did that for some time. And there was some period of time there too, where, I kind of just had to, live off of some of my savings, and then we get some small projects, panel builds.
And when did you hire your first employee?
I think roughly 6 months in.
Okay. How many employees do you have now?
27.
27 employees.
Yeah. Yeah. Given like we have employees in India and the Philippines too. So that's given a competitive edge.
How many employees do you have in the United States?
Like 6.
Okay.
Yep.
So are some of those employees just like virtual assistants, or are they people that are actually doing like robotic stuff?
Yeah. So I personally don't consider any of them virtual assistants. Like they're all, I consider them all employees. They're all working.
Are they programmers or what are they doing?
Yeah. We have mechanical designers, PLC programmers, robot programmers, simulation engineers. Like,
how do you find those people? Upwork?
So we have like our own network now of now when we need to hire people, we can kind of just lean on the employees that we currently have to, find us the next person. But that was a whole interesting like thing that occurred as well. So like originally, I was finger bopping LinkedIn and sending out sales messages, and then somebody was bugging me about a virtual assistant. Right. And I was like, okay, well, finally I said, okay, I'll do it. Whatever. Like, this seems like a pretty good deal. So I ended up hiring a virtual assistant. So then they kind of helped me with LinkedIn. And then I ended up doing it with like, it was more of a, hey, do you have any friends looking for a job? And then it just kind of, shifted into just more things, right? Like, so we hired a marketing person for doing video editing. Cause even at this point in time, I had already started our Elite Automation YouTube channel. So we've been producing content the entire time we've been alive as a company.
Incredible. How do you think that's helped your business? I mean, I know some of the stuff you do you do it because that's just what you want to do. You feel like it's leaving your mark. You enjoy it. Has the YouTube stuff been like integral to your success?
Yes and no. So, I mean, like if you was like, say like it's not super revenue driving, if that makes sense.
It totally makes sense to me. I mean, like my dad and I mean, I'll be frank. I mean, we could make more money if we theoretically, if we only, if we didn't worry about writing blogs and the podcast, et cetera. If I had somebody like forcing me to, but then again, you have to have something that keeps you in the game, that keeps you interested. And, and it does develop a brand and it does develop an identity and give you cred.
Yeah.
That's for sure. But it sounds like maybe there's a little bit into that. Like you do it because it gives you purpose, correct?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and the next caveat to that is, especially in the sector of the industry where we're in, where we're machine builders, our customers are buying big ticket items. Like everything that we do, I put a minimum of a 2-year ROI on it. So if we put somebody new on LinkedIn outreach, I don't anticipate an ROI for 2 years from that person, because it's probably going to be 6 months before they land, before we actually land a purchase order, right? I'm not going to say leads. Leads is another thing, right? We get leads, but the actual purchase order from that person generating leads, right? And going into marketing, right? If I post a video today, it's going to be 2 years from now before I see an ROI of somebody just, hitting us up because they've seen some video. This did just literally happen like last week though. Somebody said, "Hey, I seen this universal robot video that you had, and it had some vision system on it. And I actually have a need for something like very, very similar to that." And so that was pretty cool, right? And
it's very cool, but I mean, maybe you're wrong. Maybe now you just hit like a critical mass and it's like pin action and you're just, the similar thing happened with us. We put a commercial on the podcast about our business brokering, and somebody called us and they said, "Yeah, I'm a longtime fan of the blog and the podcast, and that's why I called you to sell our business." And I'm thinking, I don't know, I prefer not to think it's just an anomaly. Probably if this person called on your video, think about all the other people out there that are seeing it, that it might speak to them. I mean, or maybe maybe it is just luck and you shouldn't read too far into it. But to me, it seems like it gives you an awful lot of credibility and it just exposes people to it. So I don't know, but it's interesting. Sounds like you have a very like realistic or modest expectations for it.
Yeah. At least when I look at it for like an ROI sake, like we're going to spend money today, we're not going to see it for 2 years. And also because like one of the things is like when you post a post today, somebody may see it today, but it's not going to be till the 10th post that they see from you that they maybe think about buying, unless they have like an immediate urgent need and they don't have a vendor to solve the problem, right? Yeah. They have to see your contents over time to even want to buy. And then we have a long buying process in the first place, right? Like most of the purchases.
So okay. So what does your stuff cost?
A traditional system would be anywhere between 200,000 to 1 million.
Okay. And what would that be for doing? Welding, automotive stuff, or?
Yeah. Like let's say for instance, like one robotic weld cell with like fixturing would be maybe like $600,000.
Okay.
So dealing with bigger capital stuff. Like we have we have a project quoted right now for like 2.7 million, 2.75 million or something like that. So, they can come in all different sizes, and there's different sectors. Like automotive is really good for repeat business and really good for, large purchase order values. The big.
What sectors do you make the most money in? And I mean, I don't know if somebody asked me this, if I'd be able to give them a good answer. I'm just curious. Like, I mean, is automotive, are they like tough negotiators and hard to make money in, or I don't know, like where do you go? Oh, it's these people. I'm excited about them.
I mean, with automotive and like the welding sector, one big thing about that is like it works on like a program basis. So every time you see a new vehicle come out on the market, there's also new weld fixtures that need to be made for that robot, or I mean for that new vehicle that was made. Right? Mm-hmm. Chevy comes out and says, okay, 2025, we're going to have a new, Suburban, right? And so now all new fixturing needs to be made for that 2025 Suburban now.
That's interesting.
And so every single vehicle in the world is the same way, right? As soon as there's a new model of a vehicle, there's going to need to be tooling changes. So maybe the capital.
But Tesla doesn't have to really buy too many new cells because all their stuff looks exactly the same.
Yeah, it's probably why they do that, and they're not. That's one thing that I look at in the automotive sector. I'm just thinking like, you guys should like chill out a little bit and let a vehicle sit on the market for a few more years and not modify all the automation and everything that goes around it. But hey, that's their choice. But so go back to it, like the automotive is just much more of a repeat type of business. Because of that nature of like they come out with a new vehicle, they need new fixturing. So the capital weld cell may not change because you can just run different fixtures in that same weld cell.
Is it really hard to break into the automotive? Because I bet you they have a lot of big guys that.
Yeah, it's very competitive. Yeah, it's very competitive. Like if we didn't have our supply chain and the way that we operate, like I don't even know that we could break into the market the way we have. But we're very competitive in our pricing. We're very competitive in our execution time.
But I mean, even just to sell that first one to the automotive companies, was that really hard to like break in that first time? Or is it just kind of like they look for bids?
They look for bids. And also too, like a lot of times they'll start you off with something small. So like a lot of this goes back into the 2-year ROI thing as well, that even once you get that first purchase order, a lot of times that first purchase order is a small dollar amount to give you some tryout of something, right? Maybe they use you for robot programming services. Then the next time they're like, hey, I need this panel built, right? And then next time, hey, we have, some good conveyors or something we need installed. And then like maybe the third time they say, hey, we need this whole capital robotic cell that has a conveyor going in it, conveyor going out it, a stretch wrapper, you know what I mean? And so that's also why I say such a long like ROI and for our type of business, because you got to go through that tryout phase.
You seem like a very patient business person.
I think I have to be. I have no other choice. Like this is
you have no other choice. However, like you also need to pay the bills. So like, you can be patient, but different people have different temperaments about it.
We've done really well at being able to like execute quickly enough and be profitable enough on projects that it gets us through and gets us really the ability to grow pretty quickly. The number of employees we have this year, if I'm not mistaken, is the same number of employees we had at the end of last year. So we put a freeze on our hiring, and there's been a couple people that have got let go, and there's been a couple new people that we.
When you said you had 27 employees before, I went, holy crap! I mean, okay, they are 27 employees, but 6 of them are in this country.
Yep.
What's your shirt say that you're wearing underneath your?
Freeing humans one robot at a time.
It seems like you've tried to create this business where you were freed up to live in the way you wanted, to do the things you wanted. Do you see some sort of parallel between this on your shirt and the way you've approached your business, automating your business? Have you reflected on this before, or am I cleverer
Yeah.
than others?
No, I think that the major thing that has impacted like the business and my own mindset is I came from a programming background. So, like the way that you have to think about a system and like, okay, the part needs to do like this, then it needs to do that, then it needs to do this next thing, then it needs to do that. Now we need to flip it, bop it, twist it, right? And so like through that thought and that like logical, like, thinking through things, it's definitely created like a mentality of like a very systematic approach of things.
Mm-hmm.
That paired with, my desire to scale the company and grow it to one of the largest companies in the world, that basically gave me the mindset to be able to do the things. But the objective is to free my time so that I can operate as CEO of the company.
Yeah, no, I mean that's like, the grail that so many people can't grasp, don't even understand it. I sort of understand it. I don't know how to achieve such a thing, but that's partly choice and partly it's just wrapping your head around it. How difficult was it for you because you went from being you started as an employee and then you were a one-man band. How difficult was it to start delegating and trusting other people? And was it difficult to trust other people to do as well as you, or at least good enough?
Immediately I want to say no, not really.
It wasn't difficult.
No,
However, is that because you had great people, or is that because you have a small ego?
My biggest thing that I care about when it comes to those things is that things are done in a procedural way. And I feel like I can listen to somebody's feedback or somebody's way of doing something. And if it seems like a good idea logically, then I'm like, okay. But there's also a lot of things that coming from the background that I came from with like engineering and dealing with data, there was like a lot of good things that I had kind of put in place that I said, hey, this is the procedure. This is how I want you guys to like store stuff in the drive. This is how I want you guys to create a project folder whenever we do this. So like things are a procedure, and you just go back to like, hey, this is the procedure. Why was it not done like this?
So if somebody, say like myself, wanted to run a company in a company,
Mm-hmm.
I guess one piece of advice might be to work with somebody with a mind like yours that could then create the system. So it's a very interesting thing of looking at a business like an engineer and how that's enabled you to make it, forgive the cliche, run like a well-oiled machine. I find it really interesting. I find that makes total sense about you being a programmer, and that was what enabled you to organize things so well. But I know somebody else in our business, they have a machining company, and they were able to sort of do a similar thing, and they also are very into programming. So there's definitely something to that. So how do you feel about not getting to be on the computer coming up with the system and programming? I mean, you're programming in a way, you're programming in the vision of the company, and that's way cool. And it sounds like you really like that lifestyle. But at the same time, what got you into this was robots. Yep. So I don't know, do you miss that part?
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say I miss it as much as I dislike the sense of loss of knowledge. So I feel like over time, like you kind of you're losing it. I still get involved with like a lot of the engineering things. So like, I'll help out with some robot programming. I'll help out with like some PLC programming. Like we just accepted a simulation thing for a project for Nissan, and I'm personally going to do the simulation because it's like a 3-day gig. Like it's something easy. I can get in, do it, and then get out. But the biggest thing is just like the sense of loss of the skill set.
That's interesting. But I understand it coming from you because so it's a loss of the skill set. And do you feel like your mind is less sharp? And does that bother you?
I mean, as far as like a sharpness level, like absolutely not. I feel like I'm mentality wise and the things that I've experienced over the years, it's like I have such a what's the word for it? I don't know how to say it without just saying it. So like
so just say it, damn it, Malachi.
Yeah.
Say it.
Yeah, so it's like I'll say it like, I'm 31 and I don't know shit. You know what I mean? I have that type of mentality. That like the guy that's 40 years old is not, you know what I mean? He's not going to be the guy that's 31 years old. You know what I mean? So like, I know that like at least who I am today, the version of me 10 years from now is going to not, I can't even compete with that person by any means. And so therefore that goes to other people as well. So like anybody who has like, wisdom and skill and knowledge above mine that, I'm still a young cat in the industry. I might be doing cool things and making things happen quickly and all that.
I like that you have that perspective. That's really smart. That says something about you. I mean, the classic modern American dream is your Steve Jobs, or Bill Gates and Zuckerberg, and they start their company and they're young punk with a lot of swag and all. But I think if you really look at the statistics, it shows that older people with more different experiences actually have more success starting businesses than younger people who have balls, and energy,
mm-hmm.
But it sounds like you have good perspective on that, which that bodes well.
Yeah, I mean, like say for instance, like one thing I look at it for myself personally, I could have spent another 3 to 5 years probably going to work for some company as like a sales rep and like building out like those sales skills and witnessing other people's sales operations. Whereas, with me and Elite, like I've had to basically like psychologically engineer what the sales system is for our company. Right. And, because I didn't have any experience in that, like in the sales sector of our industry. So, everything just had to be created off of like knowledge from books and what other people are saying they're doing and things like that. Right. So,
well, sometimes experience is overrated if it's experience doing the wrong thing too.
Yeah. Yeah, that is true. Yeah. I think,
couple more questions,
sure.
And then I gotta go, and you gotta go, I'm sure. All right, rapid fire. Cobots versus industrial robots. I know you don't want to offend anybody, but are cobots, are they a little overrated?
I'd say they are overrated, especially if they're not equipped with other tools like vision system, bin picking vision, things along those lines.
So they can be equipped with that. Is it that, I interviewed this other guy and he was telling me that the main thing about cobots is that they're light so they can hit you, but they're just as stupid as regular robots. Would you say that's true?
Yeah, pretty much. And people are trying to use them in complex situations, which doesn't really help with their name, right? And then the issue with using them in a non-complex situation is you can't have the same cycle time that you would with a traditional robot. And so everybody's trying to, cut costs by, let's say, reducing the number of robots that it takes to do an operation, right? Let's say, for instance, if it takes 2 collaborative robots to do the same thing that one traditional robot can do.
Is that a typical equation?
I would say the reduction, you probably lose like somewhere between like 30% speed.
30%.
30%. Yeah. So it's not like a double, but it isn't like a traditional robot's double the speed, but losing 30% is a big deal whenever every robot you deploy is using like 80% capacity of what it.
Do you think that, so you think that like, and don't get me wrong, Universal Robots, that's a great product, but do you think it's just been a lot of really good marketing, a lot of really good, they've created this sort of friendly robot image?
Yeah. I mean, don't get me wrong. Like, they're one of the best at marketing. They do have extremely good marketing, and they have a lot of takeaways for somebody who's also trying to market.
Sure.
But there's also really good use cases for them too, right? Like, if something fits within their payload and it's a slower cycle time, like a lot of like palletization makes a lot of sense with collaborative robots, because you don't have to worry about putting up the full fencing around it.
Mm-hmm.
If you want it, you can more easily have like four stacking stations, like 4 pallet areas where you can stack, and you don't have the constraints of like, okay, now I have to put fencing around it. Now I have to have a conveyor to be able to get the part outside the robot cell, because you always have to think about with a traditional robot, how does the human interface with that system? Does the product just get spit out of the system? Does an operator have to go inside the system? So with a traditional robot, that's one of the major differences between traditional and collaborative is traditional. You really have to think about, how am I interfacing with this system?
Yeah, and space, which is obviously that's a big deal for a lot of people.
Yep. And now collaborative robots have more of a competitive edge, because the reach and the payload has been increased, which was a huge limiting factor. Because like, say for instance, even like I said palletization, but palletization wasn't even really an option because the payload was so less. Like, what are you going to pick up with a 10 kg payload, which is like 22 pounds? There's a lot of products that weigh over 22 pounds that you can't pick up. With the So
how heavy of a thing can a Universal Robot pick up now?
If I'm not mistaken, the biggest one's 35 kg, which is 66 pounds or something like that.
Okay. And other robots, I mean, they're just, it's trucks and cars.
Yeah, you can get whatever size you want. Yeah, for your application. Yeah.